Chicago, where a federal judge is demanding answers from top immigration officials over the use of tear gas and physical force during clashes over ICE operations. U.S. District Court Judge Sara Ellis grilled officials from Customs and Border Protection this afternoon, as well as ICE, over scenes like this: immigration agents using tear gas to disperse protesters. Tense encounters have played out across Chicago neighborhoods for weeks now as part of the administration's Operation Midway Blitz. Judge Ellis is demanding to know why these chemical agents are still being used. She issued a court order banning them on October 9th, nearly 2 weeks ago. The temporary restraining order barred immigration agents from using tear gas or pepper spray against protesters and journalists who pose no threat. The judge also questioned why immigration agents are still not using body cameras as she ordered, because it's all in defiance of an order she made requiring the agents in Chicago to both wear and use them. City leaders are echoing the judge's call.
What we are seeing is a violation of constitutional rights across our city. There are people that are being tackled, tear gas, shot with pepper bullets. There are individuals that are being picked up without committing any single crime outside of exercising their First Amendment rights to protest and record on public property.
Now, since Operation Midway Blitz began, immigration enforcement has surged across Illinois. The Department of Homeland Security says more than 1,500 arrests have been made across the state. 75 American citizens, they say, have also been arrested. For more, we're joined now by John Sandweg, former acting ICE director, and former Trump attorney Bill Brennan. Gentlemen, thanks to you both for joining me. John, you say these ICE agents have been put in a terrible position by this administration. How so?
Well, Elizabeth, this isn't their core responsibility. These agents are trained to get bad guys off the street. And unfortunately, we put them in this position where they have to do a lot of the policing of these protests. This is delicate work for any law enforcement agency. It implicates a lot of First Amendment issues. And so the problem, though, is it's just not what ICE is trained to do, not what historically they've done. That is double for the Border Patrol agents. So, look, I'm sensitive to these agents are in a difficult spot. They're facing these assaults. They're under siege. And they're getting, protested all of their actions when they're making arrests on the streets. I just worry that we have to find a way to de-escalate the situation, try to work more collaboratively with our state and local partners, and don't make these agents be the ones to police these protests, because it's just not what they do, not what they're trained to do, not what they have the experience to do.
Bill, a federal judge summoned ICE to her court today. She just wrapped up the hearing a short time ago. She said she was profoundly concerned, her words, that the government was ignoring her order limiting the use of tear gas on protesters. And that comes after all these videos have gone viral showing ICE agents firing and throwing tear gas last week at protesters in a residential neighborhood. Among the many people gassed were several Chicago police officers who, to John's point, were simply trying to manage the crowd. Protesters say there was no warning. ICE says there was. The problem is none of the ICE agents were wearing the body cameras.
Well, Elizabeth, and thanks for having me, of course. It's a delicate balance because certainly the right of free assembly is a core tenet of our American Constitution, our American Bill of Rights. But then it's a thin line between a peaceful protest and a dangerous riot. If the judge issued an order that said wear body cams, then that's what we're supposed to do, a district court judge. That may be overturned by a circuit court judge, but it hasn't yet that I'm aware of, as it just was today, I think, in Portland, where a three-panel circuit court appellate judiciary body said that a lower court, a district court, was wrong with the president sending the troops there. So it really is kind of an in real time kind of thing. And I noticed in those videos that you showed today, a number of the protesters seem to have gas masks on, so they're prepared for this. But it's a very difficult and delicate balance to fine tune, and public safety has to be paramount before anything. But the right of free assembly, of course, is the basis of our Constitution.
Right. Well, I think there were more protesters without gas masks. And more importantly, the Chicago police officers had no gas masks when they were tear gassed. But John, to that point about the body cameras, you know, when the judge ordered the agents to wear them so that what they were claiming could be documented in some way, the government objected, saying it was impractical. Why would they object? The body cameras would show what was happening and exactly the threat that they say they're under.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I can't speak for the administration, but I agree with you. I think historically, as body cameras came into vogue, a lot of law enforcement agencies objected. But it turned out they actually really helped the officers and the agents.
Yeah, they helped the police.
Yeah, they had to defend them against false allegations. People say they used excessive force. The body camera reveals they didn't. Helps them get convictions in cases. So I hope that the agency adopts the body cameras because I think it could defend the ICE agents. But look, as Bill just said, too, what concerns me is it is a delicate balance between what constitutes First Amendment, exercising your rights to protest, what constitutes a threat. And my concern is that we pulled these Border Patrol agents up off the southwest border, and now we're tasking with policing these protests. It's just not what they're trained to do, Elizabeth. And this is why I say at the outset, we did put them in a good spot.
To that end, John, a DHS spokeswoman says ICE agents are trained to, quote, to use minimum amount of force necessary to resolve dangerous situations and prioritize the safety of the public and themselves. What specifically are the rules of engagement for ICE agents, and are they any different from the rules of engagement for local police?
No, they're across the board, and they're pretty consistent with any law enforcement. And when I say across the board, they're for all DHS. They apply to CBP and ICE. But basically, the force you use has to be reasonable to the threat you face. You're supposed to try your best to de-escalate the situation first. And on less than lethal force, right, that is a progression, but that is to be used only when, right, your verbal warnings, after verbal warnings have been given and proven insufficient. But Elizabeth, so there's no argument about the rules of the use of force rules. I mean, they're pretty consistent with
I think the argument is whether they're being used here.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that when have things escalated? When is the threat and when is the use of force reasonable to what you're facing? And this just goes back to my point. That takes experience. That's what local law enforcement do. They deal with the protests traditionally, just not what ICE does.
Bill, this all stems from a lawsuit by protesters who say ICE is violating their constitutional rights of free speech by firing tear gas and pepper balls at them. There was video of ICE agents shooting a rubber bullet from a rooftop down at a minister who was certainly, the video that we have, he was just standing there, he says, praying outside the ICE detention center. There's also viral videos showing very aggressive behavior by ICE agents, tackling and shoving people. The problem is, all we're seeing are these snippets of video. We don't see what happened before, so we don't know. And ICE says, we warned them, or they were acting aggressively, but they have nothing to prove that either.
Well, Elizabeth, the videos, and I agree, they're cut and they're segmented. You don't see the entire clip. But the
and
videos
they're pretty
that I
damning
just
to watch.
watched, but the ones I just watched kind of speak for themselves. I mean, you have law enforcement of whatever designation, ICE, Chicago police, whomever, and they're trying to, it looks like they're trying to quell a crowd. And you see, I see somebody with an upside down American flag and people with pink gas masks acting aggressively. It's a difficult situation. You know, we tried one of the January 6th cases, and there was body cam video. And as John said, it was helpful because if you watched the video, we had a young gentleman from Athens, Georgia, who was on the front line, and the video looked troublesome when you saw it played, but when you kind of Zapruder filmed it, frame by frame, you could see a lot more, and the gentleman was found guilty. So the video actually helped him, but it just seems to me, I'm watching this now, and I see these people, fighting back to ICE, whether they're right or wrong, ICE agents. It's troubling to see citizens with gas masks fighting back to these officers. I mean, it's difficult to watch.
Yeah, it's difficult to watch. I think it's a Rorschach test. It's difficult for people to watch as well. Many claiming they're just trying to protest what's happening. At any rate, if they just follow the judge's orders and wear the body cameras, we get a very full picture of what's happening
And if the people with the pink gas masks weren't elbowing them and punching them, it would go a lot smoother.
Yeah, well, we don't know what led up to that, John, Bill, to your point. So Bill Brennan, John Sandweg, we are not going to solve this tonight because we don't have access to the entire video of what happened, but it's definitely capturing the attention of judges in Chicago.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.